Hello and welcome. Today I am going to be talking to you about one of my favorite educational tools to use in my classroom. I'm going to be talking to you today about Pear Deck and how to integrate it with Google Slides. I have the link for my slideshow posted today. I'm not going to go through every slide just for the sake of time, but I do have detailed instructions on each step of what we're going to go through today. So if you'd like to get that information, that is the bit.ly link that you can use to access this presentation. So let's go ahead and get started today. So first of all, the founding of Pear Deck. It was founded in 2014 in Iowa City, Iowa by the following people. And they kind of stumbled across Pear Deck as an accident. They wanted to create an interactive presentation to present information on a different platform they were working on, but the people they were presenting to loved the idea of an interactive presentation so much that they recommended that they up and run with it. And so they did, and here we are 4 years later, and I am telling you about one of my favorite classroom management tools. So what is it? This is a tool to create interactive presentations to engage students in the classroom, and their mission on their website is to help teachers engage every student every day. And this is truly why I love Pear Deck, because it does keep students so engaged. And I have a little video here that I'm going to play for you just to give you an idea of what this looks like in the classroom. And this is directly off of the Pear Deck website.
Pear Deck will change the way you present slide decks in a live classroom setting. When you hit Start Presenting in Pear Deck, you're creating a live session for participants to join on their own computer, tablet, or smartphone. As the instructor, you control the flow of the presentation from your computer or tablet. On their devices, participants can respond to your pre-planned or impromptu questions throughout the presentation with a number of unique interaction types. Those responses can then be shared anonymously and in real time on your classroom projector or interactive whiteboard. From your device, you can isolate individual answers, toggle responses, and even do cool things like overlay all of the drawings your students have shared. Let's walk through a session to find out how.
Okay, and I am going to walk you through that session today. I am going to get off of my Pear Deck, my Google Slides, excuse me. Again, I do have very detailed instructions. You can see them over here on how to do everything that I'm going to show you to do. But I thought it'd be better to show than to tell. So the first thing that you need to do is you actually need to install Pear Deck. So we're going to go to Google Drive. So you're going to want to be on your Google Drive, and you're just going to create a new Google Slide presentation. Once you have the presentation open, you have to install Pear Deck. So the way that you do that is you go to Add-ons and Get Add-ons. Now, you're going to want to search in the search bar for Pear Deck, and it should be the one and only item that pops up. Now, if you don't have it installed, you'll have a little install button over here. I already have Pear Deck installed on my computer, which is why I don't have the install button over here. So once you install it, it'll just take a couple of minutes to upload, and then you should be good to go. So the way that you open the Pear Deck menu, you go to Add-ons once more, and you should see this Pear Deck add-on in your list. And once you scroll over that, you will have the Open Pear Deck add-on option. So you're going to want to go ahead and click that. And then after a couple of seconds, this Pear Deck menu is going to pop up on the right hand of your screen. So this is what you're going to be using to build your Pear Deck slide presentation. Now, what I love about Pear Deck and this menu is that they already have a lot of pre-made slides for you to choose from. So all of these first items that you see here in your menu, the beginning of lesson, during, end of lesson, and the critical thinking, these are new and they're really awesome and I love them. All of these are pre-made slides that the Pear Deck team has put together for you. So we're just going to take a look at a couple. We'll look at the beginning of lesson first. So if you scroll through here, you're going to see you have a couple of options for different slides to use, and maybe I decide that I want to use this one in my presentation. So all you do is you click on it. It is literally that easy. And then the Pear Deck app will think about it, and it'll format it, and it'll add it to your slideshow presentation for you. And obviously this is just like a regular slide, so you can drag this anywhere in your presentation that you want. So I am going to decide that I want this for two things. Now you're going to see this little Pear Deck bar down here with our cute little icon, and you can see it says students draw anywhere on this slide. So this is a drawing slide, and you can see that it has it labeled over in the Pear Deck menu as well. So what this is going to look like on the student computer is they're going to have the option to either draw or to type their text on the computer. Now, let's say this topic is a little too vague for me, so you can actually edit what the slide says. So I'm going to delete this. And my students have been talking about Edgar Allan Poe lately, and we've been comparing him to some other authors that we've been studying. So maybe I want them to compare and contrast Poe and Quiroga in the spaces below. So maybe I'm going to have them, type some things about Poe in number 1 and some things about Quiroga in number 2. Or maybe I'll have them draw a picture if they're more visual learners. So it's just a really diverse slide that can engage your students in a number of ways. So let's take a look at the during lesson, because there's a couple slides in here that I use all of the time. And one of them is, here are both of them actually. I use these ones all of the time. The drag your dot to how you are feeling and how well do you understand what we just covered. Both of these slides are absolutely amazing to just kind of do a checkpoint with your students to make sure that they're understanding the material. So I'm actually going to put the draggable slide in there. And the draggable slides are really cool because you have a little icon that will pop up on your student's computer. And then you see it'll just be a little blue circle icon like that. And then they will be able to drag that blue circle to any of these faces. So if they understand, they'll drag it here. If they're confused, they'll drag it here. And if they need help, they'll drag it here. So you'll be able to kind of gauge quickly how well all of your students are feeling about the lesson. All right, so there are obviously more pre-made slides that you can peruse at your leisure, but I want to go on to this section that it's called Ask Students a Question. These are like the quintessential tools that Pear Deck has created for you. And what these are is these are ways for you to make your own slides interactive. So I'm gonna actually change the layout of this for just a minute. So maybe I'm gonna talk about Poe and I want to talk about some key facts of Poe. So maybe I'm gonna give a list of, fact 1, here's another fact, here's the third fact, and then I decide I want to ask my students a question. What other information do you know about Poe? Okay, and I want the students to respond to this question that I ask. So I can choose any of these options and it'll make my slide that I just created interactive. Well, for the context of this, it's going to make the most sense for me to choose the text slide. So with the text option, the students will be able to just type a response on their computer. The draw option we talked about already, the draggable we talked about. The choice option is a multiple choice. So maybe I would want to give them multiple choice options as well, and then they would just be able to click the answer that they think is correct. You also have a number option, and I'm not familiar with this one. I've never used it. We don't really use numbers in English class. Or you can integrate a website into your presentation as well that the students can click on and explore. But for now, I'm going to make this a text slide. So I'm going to click the text button and I'll let this think for a little bit here. And then it'll create my slide as an interactive slide. Now, be careful here. This little icon that appears at the bottom of the slide is quintessential. It is super important to the slide. You do not want to delete this because this little icon down here is what tells Pear Deck, hey, this is a Pear Deck slide. So you want to make sure that you keep that. I know it may ruin the aesthetic of your presentation, but it is important to have that there. So we're going to pretend as though I am completely done with my presentation and I'm ready to present this to my class. So I'll go to the first slide and you're going to hit this green Present with Pear Deck in your Pear Deck menu. So when I hit this, and we're going to give it a minute to think here because it's got to get its life together just a little bit, but it is going to open, I'll click out of this, it's going to open this on your screen. So where this is the screen you're going to want to have up when you're presenting to your students. So I always project this over my projector and oopsies. Oh, hopefully that doesn't interact with us. So what you're going to see here, the students are going to have to go to joinpd.com and enter this code. And I actually have a student account pulled up here. So I'm going to go and enter this code GIAZY. So GIAZY. And you can see I already went to joinpd.com. Once I enter that code, I'm into the presentation. And so I can see here on my projector how many students are connected. So you can wait until your whole class is connected to start the class. I also want to show you what's called the teacher dashboard. So there's this little icon here that says Open Teacher Dashboard. That was the screen you saw pop up right away. What I like to do is I like to use a different device such as my phone or my iPad and open the teacher dashboard there so that I'm not on the same screen as my students are viewing in class. So what I do is on whatever device I'm using, I go to peardeck.com and you're going to have to create a login. You're going to want to use the same email that you used to create the Google slide for your login. So I'm just going to log in here and kind of show you what this looks like. So when I log in, it already knows that I have a session in progress. So I have the options to open the projector, so what I'm going to project to my students, or I can open the dashboard. But let's say I don't have a session in progress yet. I'm just going to show you, these are the recent files that you can use. So this is the one that we're doing right now. So I'm just going to open that. And when I opened it, you see I have a session started today at this time. This is the button I want to hit. This is the teacher dashboard button. And when I do this, it will open my teacher dashboard. I still have my code projected on my screen, so I'm going to close that because I'm ready to begin. Now I can toggle through any slide in my presentation and I can see when students respond. So I'm actually going to go to this presentation and you'll notice if I go back, oops, that's not the right one. If I go back to my presentation, it's on this slide already because I toggled that from my teacher dashboard. So if I go back to my student presentation, this is what my student draggable looks like. So I have this blue icon that I can drag. So I'm going to drag it to keep going. I understand. And back on my teacher dashboard, I can see that Natasha Fuller dragged the blue draggable to right there. And so you'll be able to see all of your students. This is the overlaid grid view. You also can see each individual slide, or you can see them in a list form, and if I had more people, you would just keep scrolling down to see the list. So depending on the type of question, I like to use the overlay or usually the grid layout are my two favorites. Now when you're in the grid layout, one thing I want to point out, you're going to see these stars by every slide. So what I love about this is if you click the star, that means that if you hit show responses down here on the bottom menu bar, it will only show the responses that you starred. If you don't have any of them starred and you hit show responses, it'll show exactly what's on your screen. So I'm going to show you this right now. So I'm showing responses. Everything that's boxed in red is appearing on my student screen. So my students can see all of those responses. So that's another thing that I just absolutely love about Pear Deck. You can also lock your student screen. So if I hit lock screen, I'll take you back. This is what my student slide looks like. Your teacher has locked responses for this slide. So I can't do anything now. Now I'm trying to drag the blue dot. I can't because my teacher locked me out. And the groans that you get from the students when you do that are just so heartwarming. You gotta love it. So that's kind of a quick overview as to how to use Pear Deck, and there's a whole bunch of interactive ways that you can do this. It's a lot of fun. When you end your sessions, you can save them. So I always save them as my period numbers. And what's great about that is you can use it as an assessment tool. You can go and look back at how they did. So if I were to reopen that same presentation, and we'll give it a minute to think, you can see all of your saved sessions. So if I wanted to open that session again, I could open the dashboard and look at how my students did on that session. If I wanted to review, maybe who's struggling with class on this, how are you feeling slide. Maybe I want to see who responded to the compare contrast or to the different facts about Poe. So it's just a really great tool to keep your students super engaged in class, and I highly, highly recommend it. So again, I'm just going to project this here for you, but this is the link once more to access all of my step-by-step instructions that I just covered in this slide. And again, thank you for joining me today. I had a great time teaching you all about my favorite interactive tool to use in the classroom, and I hope that you will be able to use it in the future as well.